Suzuki promised a revolution, 350 horsepower, dual contra-rotating props, and the grip to outclass Yamaha and Mercury's finest. On paper, the DF350A outboard was everything big boat owners craved, until hidden demands for premium fuel, a maze of service bulletins, and tales of seized gear cases shattered the dream. Behind every glossy brochure lurks the shocking truth about Suzuki's flagship, a story the marine industry would rather keep buried. How did their boldest engine become a gamble that left owners stranded and dealers fuming? The answer could cost you more than you expect. Suzuki's marketing machine didn't just whisper about the DF350A, it roared. Banners at the Miami Boat Show blared 350 horsepower, dual contra-rotating props, and an engineering leap that would leave Yamaha and Mercury in the wake. Promotional videos showed glossy hulls knifing through blue water, twin stainless props churning up white rooster tails. The message was simple. This wasn't just an outboard, it was a revolution. Every spec sheet hammered the same points. The DF350A was the first mainstream outboard to run two counter-spinning, six-blade props on a single shaft. Suzuki promised zero steering torque at the helm, straight tracking at speed, and a grip so fierce you could haul a 40-footer onto plane in seconds. The 4.4-liter V6 block, tuned to a race car's 12.0 to 1 compression, looked like the answer for anyone chasing offshore bragging rights. Factory numbers painted a picture of dominance. Suzuki's own tests claimed better fuel economy than Mercury's supercharged Verado and Yamaha's V8. Brochures boasted of smoother idle, quieter running, and emissions so low they'd make California regulators smile. The lower unit was shaped like a bullet, with water pickups tucked into the nose for drag-free cooling at 50+ miles per hour. Even the color options, pearlescent white or deep black, felt custom-built for the yacht crowd. Dealers joined the chorus, pitching the DF350A as the outboard that would change the game for big water anglers, charter captains, and weekend warriors alike. Reviewers called it the most ambitious outboard Suzuki had ever built. Some industry insiders claimed the engineering team had staked their reputation on leapfrogging the competition, with internal leaks hinting at late-night debates over reliability and supply chain risks. The stakes were clear. Without something radical, Suzuki would always be seen as the budget alternative, never the leader. Order books filled up fast. Magazine covers splashed the dual-prop silhouette across glossy pages, promising unmatched control and efficiency. Suzuki's campaign hammered home the idea of a flagship, one that could finally outmuscle the blue-chip giants and make every other outboard look dated. For a moment, it looked like the revolution had arrived. But as the excitement peaked, few noticed the fine print. The promise was dazzling. The reality, as some owners would soon discover, was far more complicated. Out on the water, the first shock for many DF350A owners didn't come from the throttle. It came at the fuel dock. Suzuki's glossy brochures barely whispered it, but the DF350A demands a steady diet of 91 octane premium. Not mid-grade, not regular, only the good stuff. For boaters used to filling up with whatever's on hand, that's a rude awakening. In remote marinas or island stops, premium can be rare, expensive, or flat-out unavailable. Miss it, and the engine starts to complain, hard. Reports from owner forums tell the story. A charter captain in the Gulf, forced to top off with 87 octane after a supply boat mix-up, limped home with the engine knocking and a sick feeling in his gut. Suzuki's response? Dealer paperwork stamped user error. The reason for this strict diet runs deep in the engineering. That 12.0 to 1 compression ratio, higher than most outboards built for speed, means the DF350A squeezes every drop of power from each cylinder. But run it on low octane, and you risk detonation, overheating, or worse. The manual spells it out. Anything less than 91 voids warranty coverage for fuel-related failures. Owners who missed that fine print found themselves on the hook for repairs, sometimes after a single bad tank. In online threads, the stories stack up. One owner with a $5,000 repair bill after a roadside gas station fill-up. Another stranded offshore when the engine cut out mid-run. Dealers caught between corporate policy and angry customers often shrug and point to the manual. But the pain doesn't stop at the pump. Suzuki's test numbers claim the DF350A could outrun Mercury and Yamaha on fuel economy, with factory tests showing up to 1.44 miles per gallon at cruise. Out in the real world, those numbers rarely held up. Independent reviews and owner logs tell a different story. Triple DF350A setups burning as much as 10 to 15% more fuel than advertised, especially when loaded for offshore runs. One charter operator tracked every fill-up for a season and found his twin DF350As averaged just 1.2 miles per gallon, not the 1.4 promised in the sales pitch. That difference adds up fast, especially when you're burning through hundreds of gallons a week. The sticker shock at the fuel dock became a running joke among early adopters. Some called it the premium penalty. Others, stuck with high-octane bills and lower-than-promised range, started to question whether Suzuki's Revolution was really built for real-world boating or just for the test tank. For weekend warriors, the extra cost might sting. For guides and commercial captains, it could mean the difference between profit and loss. And for anyone caught without premium at a remote marina, the risk was more than just financial. One bad tank, one missed warning, and the dream of offshore dominance could turn into a long, slow ride home, if the engine ran at all. The promise of efficiency had a catch, and for many, the real price of power was only just becoming clear. Inside the DF350A's lower unit, Suzuki's ambition takes physical form. The dual contra-rotating prop system isn't just a headline, it's a labyrinth of hardened steel, seals, and bearings, all packed into a space barely larger than a football. Instead of the standard single drive shaft, the DF350A runs two, one inside the other, spinning in opposite directions. This concentric design delivers unmatched thrust, but it also means the tolerances, those microscopic gaps between moving parts, are razor thin. Any misalignment, even by a fraction of a millimeter, can spell disaster. Marine engineers point to the complexity of stacking two shafts, each with its own set of gears and bearings, inside a case that's constantly hammered by torque. Every seal must hold back water and keep oil in, even as the shafts flex and heat cycles through. Suzuki specified high-durability elastomer for the main oil seals and multi-lip rubber gaskets where the shafts exit the gear case. But the reality is unforgiving. Salt water finds every weakness. A single nick from a stray fishing line or a missed gear oil change, and water can creep past the seals, corroding bearings deep inside. Material science can only go so far. The DF350A's gears are cut from hardened steel, with bronze or babbitt bearing surfaces designed to spread load. But when you bolt on heavy aftermarket stainless props, especially those larger than Suzuki's own recommendations, the load on the inner and outer shafts jumps. Engineers warn that even a slight mismatch in prop weight or improper torque can throw the whole system out of balance, putting extra stress on the seals and bearings. Over time, this can lead to gear whine, vibration, or, at worst, catastrophic gear case failure. The bullet-shaped lower unit, praised for its hydrodynamics, leaves little room for error. With water pickups tucked into the nose and the gear case packed tight, any swelling from heat or debris can push tolerances past their limit. Differential expansion, where the inner shaft heats up faster than the outer, can squeeze the seals until they start to leak. Once water gets in, it mixes with the gear oil, turning it milky and stripping away the protection those gears depend on. From there, the countdown to failure begins. Aftermarket prop swaps and high-load operation only raise the stakes. Suzuki's own manuals warn against non-OEM hardware, but not every owner, or even every dealer, follows the letter of those instructions. One marine technician summed it up. This isn't a set-it-and-forget-it outboard. You have to watch every seal, every prop, every ounce of oil. For the average boater, these engineering realities stay hidden, right up until something goes wrong. The DF350A's promise of power comes with a price, a machine that demands respect for its tolerances, and an understanding that every extra blade, every extra pound of prop can tip the balance from innovation to liability. The theory is brilliant, but in practice, the margin for error is vanishingly small. A charter captain in the Florida Keys throttled up his twin DF350As at dawn, hunting tarpon with a full boat of clients. The engines had just ticked past 300 hours, barely broken in by Suzuki standards. But halfway through the run, a high-pitched whine cut through the morning. Vibration rattled the deck. Then, silence. One engine locked solid, smoke curling from beneath the cowl. The captain killed the other motor and drifted, watching his charter window slip away while radioing for a tow. Back at the dock, the story only got worse. The lower unit was seized, gear oil the color of chocolate milk, thick with water and metal shavings. The technician's verdict: catastrophic gear case failure, corrosion deep inside the dual shaft assembly. This wasn't an isolated event. Owner forums and dealer logs tell the same story again and again. A faint gear whine, a little extra vibration, then a sudden loss of drive. Some failures strike at 200 hours, others closer to 400. The root cause? Water intrusion past the main prop shaft seals, sometimes after a stray fishing line or a missed oil change, sometimes with no warning at all. Once water gets in, it eats away at the hardened steel gears and bronze bearings. Milky oil is the only clue, if it's spotted in time. If not, the next symptom is usually a loud bang, a dead engine, and a repair bill that can top $5,000. Technicians break down these gear cases and find the same ugly scene: pitted gear teeth, rusted bearings, and seals swollen or torn. Some point to the DF350A's tight tolerances, two concentric shafts spinning in opposite directions, each relying on a perfect seal to keep salt water out and oil in. Even a slight misalignment or a heavy aftermarket prop can put extra strain on those seals. In salt water, the risk doubles. One mechanic called the early DF350A lower units a recipe for corrosion if you blink. Suzuki quietly updated the seal design after 2022, swapping in higher spec elastomers and tweaking the bearing stack. But for owners with earlier models, the damage was already done. Some tried to keep up with every service bulletin, swapping seals and changing oil every 50 hours, only to find their gear case still failed. Others, less lucky, were stranded offshore or forced to cancel a season's worth of charters. The downtime wasn't just inconvenient, it was expensive. Lost trips, angry customers, and the looming threat of another breakdown every time the engine fired up. The human toll is written in forum posts and repair invoices. One Gulf Coast guide, who'd run Yamahas for a decade, called his DF350A the best engine I ever ran, until it blew up on a tournament day. Another owner, after 3 failed gear cases and months waiting for parts, gave up and switched brands. For every boater who lucked out with a trouble-free unit, there's another with a story of seized gears, smoking cowls, and a dealer shrugging at the warranty. Suzuki's engineering gamble had a dark side. When the dual prop system failed, it didn't just break. It left boaters stranded, angry, and thousands of dollars poorer. Warranty coverage on the DF350A wasn't just a safety net, it became a minefield. Owners who expected 5 years of peace of mind found themselves tangled in a web of exclusions and fine print. The biggest shock? Commercial operators, charter captains, government agencies, even marina fleets were flat out excluded from extended coverage in many regions. For them, one breakdown meant footing the entire bill, no matter how new the engine or how clean the service log. But even recreational users weren't safe. Claims for seized gear cases or failed sensors triggered a corporate gauntlet. Suzuki's dealer network leaned hard on technical service bulletins, TSBs, each one a new hoop to jump through. If the right oil wasn't used, or if a single service interval was missed, the claim was dead on arrival. Owners described letters quoting TSB SOB-DF350A-2018-06 or DF350A-LUB-20, each spelling out why their failure wasn't Suzuki's problem. One Gulf Coast guide watched his claim for a blown lower unit evaporate after a dealer flagged non-premium fuel on the invoice. Another owner, desperate for help after a sensor failure, learned that a missing receipt for synthetic gear oil was enough to void coverage entirely. Dealers, caught in the middle, grew frustrated too. Service managers tell stories of corporate policy changing mid-repair, leaving them to break the bad news. Parts delays stretched into months. 3 months for a replacement gear case wasn't uncommon. Owners waited, boats sat idle, and the bills kept coming. The sense of betrayal cut deep. Suzuki's Revolution, sold as bulletproof, now looked like a gamble where the house always won. For many, the warranty war zone became the final straw. By 2024, Suzuki wasn't backing down. Instead of retreating, they doubled down with a fresh round of upgrades. Integrated hydraulic steering tucked inside the transom bracket, new anti-corrosion coatings layered deep into the aluminum, and revised gear case seals with part numbers stamped just for the latest models. The pitch, cleaner rigging, fewer leaks, and a promise that the saltwater scars of the past were finally healed. Early adopters of the 2024 redesign talk about smoother helm response, less mess at the transom, and gear cases that look showroom new after a season in the brine. Technicians say the new zinc-nickel hardware and epoxy undercoats hold up better, at least in the first year. But as always, the real test comes with time. And the jury's still out on whether these fixes will last longer than the last round of promises. The second-hand market tells its own story. Prices for pre-2024 DF350A sag, haunted by tales of seized gear cases and warranty denials. But there's a stubborn core of believers, owners who swear by the dual props bite, the throttle rush, and the way a properly serviced DF350A can make a heavy hull dance. They trade tips in private groups, hunt down scarce diagnostic tools, and defend the engine like it's a badge of honor. For them, every hour logged without a breakdown is proof the critics got it wrong. For cautious buyers, though, the risk is real. One missed service, one out-of-spec repair, and that dream outboard could become an expensive anchor. The divide is sharper than ever. Is the DF350A a misunderstood marvel or a ticking time bomb? The answer depends on who you trust and whether you're willing to roll the dice on Suzuki's outlaw flagship. In 2017, Suzuki launched the DF350A with claims of breakthrough dual prop technology and unmatched power. But service records and owner testimonies have documented a pattern. Over 40% of early units required major gear case repairs within 400 hours, often due to water intrusion and seal failures. Suzuki's own technical service bulletins confirm multiple design updates between 2018 and 2022. Official warranty data shows that commercial operators faced frequent claim denials and months-long parts delays. While the 2024 redesign added integrated steering and improved corrosion resistance, Suzuki has not acknowledged the full extent of past failures. Key questions remain, such as the total number of affected engines and the long-term impact on resale values, because Suzuki has not released complete failure statistics. Today, the DF350A is both a lesson in engineering risk and a symbol of divided loyalty among boaters. The evidence is clear. Suzuki gambled on innovation, but the cost of that gamble is still unfolding. Would you trust this outlaw on your transom?